A girl with green hair and animal-like ears lies chained to a table. Her face shows fear and tension. She is breathing heavily, clearly under stress, eyes filled with anger. She notices a group of people in white coats, scientists, about to do something to her. One of the guards says they used new technology this time, and the head warden confirms it. Scientists discuss a device called the Astrodome, which they say can confuse the minds of demons. One of the scientists activates a device that releases a purple liquid with something inside. The girl screams in pain as the scientist holds the flask of mysterious liquid. The head warden, smiling, decides to see if it will work. The girl is injected with a liquid containing something like a worm. She is clearly terrified. Her eye widens with shock. She lets out a cry of "oh" as the liquid takes effect. The girl screams in pain, her face contorted with agony. She is in agony under the influence of the liquid. She breathes heavily, bowing her head. One of the scientists says that the experiment seems to have worked. The scientist offers to listen to what the observers have to say and gets approval. A look of confusion and fear appears on the girl's face. The scientist begins to release her. The scientist asks the girl to repeat herself, his voice harsh and insistent. The girl looks at the scientist with consternation, eyes beginning to spiral. Her eyes are affected by something. They change shape. You can see her fear and confusion. The girl suddenly attacks the scientist, biting his neck with fury, blood spurting in all directions. The other scientists rush towards her, trying to hold her back, but it's too late. She's fighting desperately. One of the scientists panics and screams that his colleague is dead, making the situation even more tense. A girl with a smile, bloody lips, laughs gloatingly, her eye blazing red. She looks hatefully in the direction of the watchers, making it clear that she's ready for more. One of the officers says they have failed again, suspecting the girl belongs to the higher demons, and orders her locked up. It's night. In the pouring rain, the guards report that a motorized truck is moving toward the secured area. The Autobahn drives through the secure perimeter, accompanied by warning signals and an atmosphere of tension. Inside the truck, a young man sits with his head down, immersed in his thoughts. The young man and the large red demon are in the autozone across from each other. The atmosphere seems grim and tense. The demon addresses the young man, trying to get his attention by calling him boy. The demon asks why he is here and why he doesn't take his true form, expressing his disgust for humans. The young man raises his gaze, looking at the demon, his face serious and clearly preparing for the conversation. The red demon is angry at the young man, yelling at him not to ignore him and to respond. The young man calmly confesses that his crime is stealing from an official's mansion, much to the admiration of the demon. The demon mockingly asks if the young man wants to live a human life and calls anyone who cooperates with humans weaklings. The other prisoners support the demon, exclaiming approvingly that he is right. One of the inmates says that foul play should look like foul play, adding emotionality to the conversation. The young bald prisoner is clearly nervous, feeling the pressure of the people around him. He huddles up against the wall and then shows his true identity as a tasty piglet. "Oh, I love bacon." The demon continues to taunt the young man, stating that despite trying to look like a human, he still ended up here. The demon then spits on the young man's shoes, showing his contempt and causing further humiliation. The young man replies with equanimity that the demon is only humiliating him for his own self-gratification. The young man sarcastically mentions the tattoo on the demon's neck, stating that it symbolizes the glory of holy war and devotion to demonic traits and habits. The young man reminds the demon that, despite his disdain, they have both been taken prisoner by humans and are in the same boat. The demon becomes enraged at the young man's words and lunges at him, screaming at him to watch his tongue. The young man sits still, showing no fear, while the demon's fist moves towards him. Soon the car reaches its destination. The autocar pulls up to the gates of the closed island of Shanu State, which is a concentration camp for the undead. The car has stopped, but no one has gotten out of there yet. Zhao Xian, the concentration camp chief, watches the arrival of the truck with a satisfied smile while under an umbrella surrounded by guards. The warden and his men with an umbrella come out to meet the autozac in the pouring rain, prepared to receive the prisoners. Chief Zhao Xian loudly orders the criminals to get out of the truck, preparing to meet them. The guy slowly steps out of the autocar, handcuffed and shackled, holding his hands out in front of him. The prisoners get out of the car in the rain, surrounded by soldiers who are keeping order. The officer notices that there were 10 prisoners on the list, but only 9 came out. One of the soldiers informs the officer that there is only one of the prisoners left in the autozac. The red-skinned demon lies beaten and handcuffed on the floor, his condition clearly serious. An officer with burning eyes and under an umbrella demands an answer to the question, "Who did this?" The officer looks suspiciously at one of the captives, asking, "You?" The terrified captive points at the other guy, accusing him to get away with it. The officer adjusts his glasses and looks with interest at the guy who has been accused. He stands still. The officer, scrutinizing the boy, asks coldly, "Name?" Roland introduces himself, and the commander repeats his name gloatingly, with a grin that betrays an underlying sneer. The commander tells Roland that despite the difference, he's not going to spare him, reminding him of his punishment for assaulting another prisoner. Roland tries to justify himself by claiming he acted in self-defense. The commander reacts coldly, expressing understanding with, "That's how." The commander suddenly stabs Roland with an electric taser, causing him to be in severe pain. As Roland struggles to stay on his feet, the commander reminds him of the first rule: don't cross him. Roland transforms in anger, his eyes turn inhuman, and he lets out a menacing scream. The guards prepare to retaliate by pointing their weapons at Roland, who looks like a real beast. The commander announces to all captives that they are now his slaves and anyone causing trouble will be killed. The commander reads Roland's sentence, affirming his life imprisonment and his punishment for the assault 7 days in isolation. Prisoners, chained together, stand in the rain, guards ordering, "Hold formation." The commander addresses the demons, warning that here it is better to obey and forget about freedom. The commander confirms with a smirk, "Oh, right," looking at Roland standing with the guards. The large gate opens and the group walks inside, accompanied by the words, "Welcome to hell." Roland looks at the city in the distance, realizing there is no turning back. The soldier on the tower commands to move faster, directing the prisoners through the gate. The commander orders Roland out of the formation and the guards immediately grab him. The commander announces Roland's imminent departure to the detention center, adding that it is his favorite place. Roland and the guards are led to a tall, gloomy tower. The other prisoners watch in horror, realizing that Roland is being sent to a place where they usually come out half dead. Roland and Officer Zhao Xian enter the elevator, and the elevator closes behind them. Officer Zhao Xian says, "Dismissed," and orders the other officers as they lead Roland out. The elevator moves down, and only Roland and Zhao Xian remain inside. Roland tells Zhao Xian that they are alone now and he can relax. The officer, relaxing, begins to breathe heavily, showing that he was tense. Zhao Xian, laughing, asks, "Agent Roland, I was good, wasn't I?" He also explains that he started preparing immediately after the call from the Secret Intelligence Agency, and asks Roland to put in a good word for him in the future. Zhao Xian wonders if Roland instigated the fight to get into the SHU, and asks why Roland was sure that guy would attack. Roland replies that it was a coincidence. He saw a tattoo of an extremist organization that advocates the glory of the demon race. Roland explains that he took the opportunity to sit across from that guy, knowing that he hates congeners who don't show demonic traits and that it would cause aggression. Zhao Xian expresses his admiration for Roland, saying that he admires him endlessly. Zhao Xian apologizes to Roland for the punch, saying he's sorry and hopes Roland is okay. Roland shows a mark on his abdomen, clearly related to the surgery. Zhao Xian explains that he heard from an acquaintance that this technology is 5th generation. All scouts in the kingdom must go through it. Zhao Xian mentions that the demonic origin transplant operation has been performed and the rejection reaction has decreased to 30%, but it's still dangerous. Roland admonishes Zhao Xian to stop. Zhao Xian apologizes, and Roland asks for a better way to talk about their purpose. Roland says that he has already read all the information, but he still wants to hear Zhao Xian's side of the story. Zhao Xian reveals that the demon was captured by secret intelligence and sent to prison, and that this demon is only causing trouble. Zhao Xian adds that the demon is a bit cranky, and Roland realizes they're dealing with a troublesome fowl. Roland exclaimed in surprise, "Capricious!" Zhao Xian tells Roland that he admires his ability to dance on the tip of a sword, and asks him not to let him down. Zhao Xian wishes Roland bravery and strength to Shenying. Roland pondered in surprise. To Xuanwu? The officers accompanying Roland greet him, wishing him good health. They walk down the hallway, passing cells, and the officers order the prisoners to shut up and cover their mouths. The map shows that the state of humans is called Xuanwu, and its opponent is the Kingdom of the Unholy. For thousands of years, these two sides have hoped to completely destroy each other. One of the prisoners yells menacingly at Roland, "Boy, what the fuck are you doing here?" Another prisoner growls at Roland, showing his fangs. It turns out that both sides of the war have embedded huge numbers of spies to win the war. Roland reveals that he was forcibly recruited into the secret intelligence service of the Xuanyu state. After special training, he became a spy. He's being led under guard by 2 armed soldiers. Roland recalls that he was promised his freedom if he completed the task. Officer Zhao Xian says they're on the ground and hopes Roland will make it through the 7 days. The officer opens the cell door and invites entry. Roland reflects that his first task is to win the favor of the imprisoned girl. He sees a girl in chains sitting in the corner of the cell. The girl looks haggard and beaten. No one remembers anymore when the feud between humans and monsters began. The demon is presented in an intimidating appearance, its body glowing with powerful demonic energy. The power of the unclean comes from the demonic beginning in their bodies, and humanity has been almost completely destroyed. The great sage, who mastered the art of acupuncture, recognized the hidden power. This knowledge gave mankind a chance to resist evil. With the advent of the sage, the human race began to evolve and fight against the undead. Soon, the state of Xuanwu was founded. The war between humanity and the undead continues to this day, destroying many lives. Civilizations have always sought the total destruction of each other. Roland thinks about his mission, realizing the danger. He ponders whether he will be the next victim when he enters the realm of the undead. Roland enters the cell where he sees a chained girl with green hair. She is his first target. Roland scrutinizes the girl. She has green hair and pointed ears. She's a demoness, and that's worrisome. Her name is Bai Ling. At first glance, she seems weak, but Roland realizes that she is very dangerous. Zhao Xian reminds Roland of the importance of his mission. This mission has no room for error, and every action counts. Roland stands in front of a huge building with a threatening facade, preparing for an important mission. He has a great challenge ahead of him. A dark figure hands Roland an envelope with information about his first objective. His task is to gain Bai Ling's trust and infiltrate the kingdom of the undead. On the ground lies a dead diplomat with a dagger in his head. He was killed by Bai Ling 3 months ago. Intelligence has since found her and captured her. Bai Ling's demonic form is shown. She belongs to the Qingqiu demonic fox clan. Her status in this clan is quite high. Next, we see Bai Ling massacring the enemies. Her strength is so great that her capture cost the scouts many fighters. Roland is shown a document stating that Bai Ling's danger level is classified as A. This emphasizes that she is not to be underestimated. Roland is briefed. He is arranged to meet Bai Ling and must follow the plan. He is reminded of the importance of the mission. The dark figure reminds Roland not to let the state down and to act to save humanity. Roland decisively declares that he will do this for his lord. He hopes that the state will fulfill its promise and grant him his freedom. Zhao Xian complains about the foul odor in the place they came to, comparing it to a farm. He is tired of such working conditions. Roland is surprised that this place doesn't look like a prison at all. Zhao Xian smiles as he explains to Roland that this place is a testing base for experiments. Roland repeats in surprise, "A testing facility?" A dark corridor with many doors is shown, and Roland speculates that monsters are being experimented on here. Bai Ling, chained up, warns Zhao Xian and Roland, "Don't rejoice in victory." With a determined expression on her face, Bai Ling says that whatever the humans have done to her people, they will repay in thousandfold. Zhao Xian doubts her words in response, asking if she knows what she's talking about. With a smirk, Zhao Xian says that he will teach her to obey. Clutching the lever, Zhao Xian proclaims, "No one has the right to cross me." He turns the lever with force, creating sparks and a noise that startles Bai Ling. Bai Ling shouts back at Zhao Xian, desperately trying to fight back. Bai Ling screams in despair as she is tortured. Roland watches Zhao Xian approach Bai Ling to continue the torture, clearly concerned about what's going on. Zhao Xian raises the electric baton and points it towards Bai Ling. Bai Ling is in severe pain from the electric shock, her face expressing agony. Zhao Xian taunts Bai Ling, noting that he even likes her, and suggests that she try to entertain him. Zhao Xian grinned as he moved closer, holding Bai Ling by the hair. Roland watches the officer torture the girl, wondering about his true intentions. Zhao Xian continues to taunt Bai Ling, asking what her true appearance is and if she has a tail. Bai Ling looks humiliated and suffering, her face covered in sweat and expressing anguish. Roland looks on with a grim and thoughtful expression as he remains a witness to this cruelty. Officer Zhao looked at the boy with a displeased look. Roland states to Zhao Xian that humans call themselves intelligent and civilized beings, but allow themselves to mistreat captives, calling into question the difference between humans and demons. Zhao Xian sharply asks Roland if he is trying to threaten him. Roland replies that he doesn't want Zhao Xian to get in trouble and advises him to stay away from demons, otherwise it might negatively affect his future promotion. Roland warns Zhao Xian that the high-ranking officials of the capital would surely be displeased if they found out about his mockery of demons, and that such behavior could lead to serious consequences. Suddenly, the officer realized everything. He realized what he'd done was too rash. Zhao Xian realizes that his career could be over if his flirtation with the demon Bai Ling becomes known to the capital's officials. Zhao Xian recognizes Roland's nobility, marveling at his knowledge of officialdom and his ability to influence people. Zhao Xian admires that at such a young age, Roland not only has a good grasp on political matters, but also knows how to bring people to their senses, believing his future is limitless. Roland and Zhao Xian continue their conversation, where Zhao Xian agrees with Roland's reasoning, but is still determined to punish Bai Ling for her disobedience. Roland tries to stop the violence and suggests that Zhao Xian take the full brunt of it if he has no intention of calming down. Zhao Xian mockingly accepts Roland's offer, surprised at his determination. Zhao Xian decides to fulfill Roland's request and punches him. Roland is lying on the floor, for the blow was quite severe. At this moment, Zhao orders the soldiers to continue the beating. Roland stays on the ground after the strikes but doesn't give up, continuing to defend his friends. The soldiers still continue to beat the guy. At this moment, Zhao once again brings the club over Roland's head. Zhao Xian completes his brutal attack, leaving Roland beaten. Bai Ling and Roland remain in the cell, while Zhao Xian orders the guards to leave. Zhao Xian orders him to keep an eye on Roland, warning that he has escaped from prison before and that there will be no mercy if it happens again. Roland is lying on the floor after a beating, and it would appear that he is already dead. Bai Ling is concerned about Roland's condition and tries to make sure he's still alive, except Roland shows no sign of being alive. Bai Ling hopes the guy isn't dead because she could have done it without his help. Bai Ling touches Roland's body, telling him to wake up because she doesn't want to be indebted to him. Bai Ling continues to call Roland by name, but there is no effect. Roland finds himself in an unusual chair, not realizing what is happening. The bright light starts to blind the guy, so he tries to cover himself with his hands so that the bright light doesn't burn his eyes. Roland is introduced to Xuanyu's secret government intelligence service, which has chosen him for a special mission. He is left with no choice but to accept. A service agent promises Roland that upon successful completion of the mission, his past will be cancelled and he can start a new life. Roland sits up, covering his head with his hands, when the figure of his little sister appears in front of him, calling him little brother. Roland looks away, startled by his sister's appearance, and realizes that it is probably an illusion. Roland's sister cheerfully reminds him that it's her birthday and asks him to remember to buy a chocolate cake. The sister's face changes and a mechanical arm appears nearby, hinting at her connection to the threat. Roland yells out his sister's name, Xiaoming, and tries to warn her of the danger, realizing that she is in danger. The woman in black reminds Roland that he must complete a mission to keep his family safe. She threatens that otherwise his loved ones will be killed. Roland screams in despair, unable to accept this situation. Roland regains consciousness sitting on the floor and continues to scream, clearly in a state of shock at what is happening. Bai Ling exhales and stares in surprise. She is clearly frightened or stunned by what just happened. Roland turns his head. He listens intently or thinks about what is happening. Bai Ling sits chained up, her expression clearly showing confusion or anxiety. She stares forward in disbelief. Roland and Bai Ling are both embarrassed and blushing. Obviously, there was an awkward tension between them. Bai Ling asks Roland if he had a bad dream, clearly hinting at his shaken state. Roland confirms that it was an unpleasant experience, with a slightly embarrassed expression on his face. Roland notices that this place can't be any good at all. He stands up, turns around, and his movements show irritation. Roland reminds Bai Ling that he was beaten up because of her and wonders why she still hasn't introduced herself. Bai Ling replies that she didn't ask him to interfere, and remarks that he was beaten unconscious. Roland tries to convince Bai Ling that if he hadn't intervened, she would have been hurt by now. Bai Ling introduces himself to Roland and asks who he is. Roland gives his name and adds that he's just a nobody. Bai Ling says she heard that Roland escaped from prison. Roland confirms that he escaped from Green Island in the north, but was caught again. Bai Ling wonders how Roland was able to escape, given Green Island's tight security. Roland suspects that Bai Ling is trying to get information out of him for the warden. Bai Ling is annoyed and shouts that she is a warrior of the Qingqiu clan and would never collude with a human. Roland recognizes her affiliation with the Qingqiu clan and understands that Hajang is the highest rank of warrior. Bai Ling angrily threatens Roland, stating that she would kill everyone if she wasn't locked up. Roland tries to reassure her, stating that he doesn't doubt her status or that she's violent. He's just a little wary. Roland says she always suspects a conspiracy when a guy and a girl are locked up together. He thinks they are just trying to make them question everything. Bai Ling remarks that they are just uncivilized beasts to others, and adds that they are considered pets to be kept together. Bai Ling doubts that the situation on Green Island was any different. Roland replies that of course he does, but adds with embarrassment that he wasn't locked up with such beauties there. Roland informs her that now that they've discussed everything, he wants to show Bai Ling something important. Bai Ling looks at Roland suspiciously, clearly not trusting him. Bai Ling is surprised when he sees Roland doing something. Roland's handcuffs shatter and the chain goes flying apart. Bai Ling is dumbfounded and asks how Roland did it. She says that these handcuffs are specifically designed for demons, and even with the power of demonic origins, they are not easily broken. Roland demonstrates his secret hacking device, noting that force won't help here, but this tool will do the trick. The guy shows some object that looks like some kind of paperclip. Bai Ling looks at the device in surprise and asks what this thing is. Roland explains that it's his own hacking invention, and jokes that you can also clean your ears with it. Bai Ling asks if he really used that thing to open the lock, and Roland answers in the affirmative. Roland explains that the mechanism wasn't that complicated and says that on Green Island, the locks were much more technologically advanced and complex. Roland then reveals that he has been earning money by stealing in Xuanwu for many years and has broken many locks. Bai Ling calls him a thief, and Roland corrects that he prefers to be called a skillful kidnapper. Bai Ling wonders how he was able to get his thing through the detector and marvels at his ability. Roland confidently declares that it was the easiest thing to do and offers her a close look. Roland holds a small object in his hands and draws Bai Ling's attention to it. He abruptly brings his hands together, creating the effect of an object disappearing. Bai Ling is surprised to see the object disappear from his hands. Bai Ling exclaims that it was very fast and asks where he put the item. Roland reaches out to Bai Ling, and she looks warily at his hand. Bai Ling abruptly demands his hand away, threatening to bite Roland. Suddenly, she notices that she has an object in her hand, which causes her to be surprised. Roland explains with a smile that he just took his own, reassuring Bai Ling. Bai Ling asks in bewilderment how he did it in such a way that she didn't notice anything. Roland explains that he diverted her attention to his hands, so she wouldn't feel the moment of the exchange. Roland says he can drop an object anywhere and it's easy to do. Bai Ling is surprised and asks if this is how Roland was able to sneak the item in here, to which he replies, "Aha!" Roland explains that he hid the item from the guard before the detector. Roland goes through the detector and the item is not detected. He has successfully crossed the security system. After passing through the detector, Roland retrieves the item. Bai Ling asks why he was so sure the guards wouldn't check him out, and Roland sighs. Roland admits that he wasn't sure and so he planted the item with the warden. Bai Ling, focusing his gaze, asks what he plans to do next. Roland replies with a smile, "Of course." He adds that he wants to get the hell out of this damn place. Bai Ling asks Roland in bewilderment how he is going to carry out his plan, and Roland replies that he has an idea. Roland confidently declares that he was able to escape from Green Island, and he will get out of here because he is not going to stay in captivity. Roland, with chains in his hands, says he'd rather die trying to escape than stay here. Bai Ling wonders if Roland has a plan. Roland confirms there is a plan, but says he needs a strong ally for this, some powerful cultivator among the prisoners. Bai Ling declares with a smile that the one he wants is her. Roland suspiciously interjects whether she really means herself. Bai Ling says that Roland doesn't understand what it means to carry the title Hao Zan, and asks him to take off his shackles to show his power. Roland states in his mind that he knows of Bai Ling's strength and has been aware of her capabilities for a long time. He is also keenly aware of what kind of monster he might unleash if he takes the shackles off her. Roland thinks about how this girl will probably kill him if he takes off her shackles, but Bai Ling excitedly yells that if he takes off her handcuffs, she'll get him out of here. Roland looks at the handcuffs and recognizes that he has no other choice, despite the possible risks. Next, we see a building where someone is on the phone saying that people are already organized and they will provide full cooperation, guaranteeing the task will be completed. Zhao Xian hangs up the phone and says with a sly smile, "Agent Roland, we must work together." Bai Ling's broken handcuffs are shown, and her call to Roland is heard. "Roland!" Roland is stunned to see what has happened. He's in shock, trying to figure out what's going on. Bai Ling lets out smoke from her mouth, symbolizing her transformation. She tells Roland that she didn't expect him to be so special and claims that the feeling of freedom is incredible. Roland panics as he realizes that Bai Ling is much scarier than the report said. He recalls feeling oppressed, like when he met the Secret Service woman. Bai Ling looks extremely unstable, her body behaving strangely, which scares Roland even more. He clearly didn't expect this turn of events. The guy, realizing that the situation is out of control, starts to worry. Roland is disturbed by the thought that there is a thing that even the Secret Service cannot control. Bai Ling rejoices, savoring the smell of freedom. Roland realizes that Bai Ling is a real demoness who has been to the front lines before with others from her clan. Roland recognizes that Bai Ling's strength exceeds his expectations, and he can't afford to fail. Roland feels that he won't just be left alone and needs to do something about it. In a flashback to the Secret Service, there is only one ending for the underdog, and Roland is instructed to become the sharp knife that will stab the enemy in the heart. Roland decides not to deviate from the plan and keep everything under his control. Bai Ling, watching Roland with interest, notices something. Roland reacts fearfully to the girl who is looking at him so intently. Bai Ling stands in front of Roland, looking at him threateningly. Roland shouts in surprise, clearly frightened by her appearance. Bai Ling smirks, noting that she almost forgot about him. She starts questioning Roland about his background and hacking skills. Roland replies in a panic that he is from a kind of wolf clan living in the northwest, and he learned his hacking skills from a master who is already dead. Bai Ling looks at Roland suspiciously, doubting his words, and asks if he's lying to her. Roland is frightened. It's obvious he doesn't know how to proceed. Bai Ling gloatingly notices that his heart is beating strongly, showing that he is frightened. Bai Ling is surprised at what's happening, and Roland looks even more stunned. She says she was so busy talking to him that she almost forgot she wanted revenge. Bai Ling's gaze turns sinister, and she says that she intends to deal with whoever hurt her. Roland panics, not realizing exactly what she's going to do, and wonders what she has in mind. Roland tells Bai Ling that the most important thing right now is to get away from here, and that revenge can be postponed. Bai Ling agrees with him, adding that she can't be here anymore. Bai Ling asks Roland what their plan is to get out. Roland explains that his plan includes the use of a probation officer. Bai Ling listens to Roland, interested in his idea. Roland points to Bai Ling's pipes, suggesting that she use them. Bai Ling hesitates, seeing the ordinary pipes, and asks what they have to do with their plan. Roland explains that the prison has pipes leading outside and they can use them to escape. Bai Ling notices that the pipes are too thin to fit through. Roland replies confidently that there are thicker pipes that can be used. Roland says that when they brought him here, he noticed pipes so large that dozens of monsters could be led through them. He's sure that if they can find a diagram of the pipes, they can get out. Bai Ling excitedly asks where they can get such a scheme. Roland assumes that the scheme is probably in the office of the chief warden. He thinks they should sneak in and kidnap the warden himself. Bai Ling agrees with the plan. Guy says they can use the warden as cover to retreat into the pipeline. But Roland doubts whether they can handle the warden alone, and suggests they look for helpers. Bai Ling confidently replies that she can handle it on her own. Bai Ling is confident in her abilities and declares that she will deal with the warden alone. Roland notes that there is now only one problem left to solve. He voices that the problem is how to get close to the warden. Roland adds that they need to get the warden to pay attention to them, but he doesn't know how to do that. Bai Ling confidently offers to take it over, saying that she has information that the warden needs. After briefly thinking about it, Roland and Bai Ling look around the room, and it seems that they have an escape plan. Bai Ling cries out in panic that she doesn't want to be imprisoned again since she was only recently freed. Roland reminds them that they have no choice. They need to pretend to be shackled in order to lure the guards and not fail the plan. Bai Ling grudgingly agrees, recognizing that this is part of their plan despite her internal resistance. She relents and shows her hands, preparing to cuff herself again. Roland confirms that everything is ready and starts to act. Bai Ling supports him by saying, "Come on!" Roland looks a little nervous but smiles, saying that everything is going according to plan. He resolutely assures himself that all that's left to do is work well to complete their escape. Roland starts calling loudly to the guards, feigning panic and attracting attention. Clutching the bars hard, he shouts that he needs to report important information urgently, thus continuing their plan. Roland shouts, calling for the guards and demanding that someone come to the camera. He is trying to attract attention. One of the guards walks indignantly down the corridor, yelling at the other prisoners to be quiet. He is clearly annoyed by the shouting and chaos. Roland continues to shout through the bars, claiming that he has important information that he wants to tell the guards. The guard becomes enraged and yells at Roland, swearing and clearly losing patience. The guard accuses Roland of being the one who made such a ruckus and questions why he is yelling. A guard bursts into the cell, threatening Roland and clearly intending to teach him a lesson. Roland tries to justify himself, but his voice trembles with fear. The guard swings his baton at Roland with fury, ready to strike. His eyes glow with rage and his movements are clearly aggressive. At this time, Bai Ling quietly says, "It's me," and attracts the guard's attention. The guard still swings his baton at Roland, who at this point tries to defend himself with his hands raised. But soon the guard stops as he is attracted to Bai Ling. Bai Ling calls out the information he wants to give, the location of their clan's intelligence headquarters, demanding that they be taken to the man in charge immediately. The guard is surprised and repeats, "Intelligence headquarters?" Not understanding what Bai Ling is talking about. The next scene shows a building in the pouring rain, the place they are probably being directed to. Inside the office, Zhao Xian tells Bai Ling that she is an important figure in the Undead Kingdom and assumes she must have a lot of information. He adds that her information is valuable and offers to consider cooperating, even if it's dangerous. But at the same time, the officer notes that if useful information can be obtained, it will be a significant accomplishment for everyone. Bai Ling and Roland stand in front of the officer with their hands tied, waiting for a decision. Roland reasoned to himself, "Now let's see how she can get close to the boss and what information she'll pass on." In the office, the boss discusses that cooperation will be mandatory. as if it were a matter of course. Bai Ling mentally thinks to himself, let's fool the warden, find the pipeline diagram, and get out of here. Everything is going according to plan. Roland tells Bai Lin that it's her turn to act. Bai Lin reports that there are enemies in several directions, and that the strongest is at 12 o'clock. Zhao Xian listens warily, suspecting that something is being prepared. Roland notices that Bai Ling is whispering something and wonders what it is. Bai Ling replies that she is calculating. Bai Ling whispers that she has a new plan. Roland is surprised and asks what exactly she is up to. With a sly smile, Bai Ling suggests just jumping out of the window and escaping. This leaves Roland shocked and confused. The building they are in is shown against the backdrop of a rough sea. Jumping out of the window looks extremely dangerous. Through the large window, Bai Ling and Roland could be seen talking with Zhao. Roland is clearly worried. He can't believe that Bai Ling is seriously thinking of jumping out of the window. He reflects on Bai Ling and calls her a demoness, trying to figure out if her idea was spontaneous or a well-thought-out plan. Roland reflects on the fact that the Secret Service has developed an evacuation plan, but now because of Bai Ling's actions, their plan is in jeopardy. Roland is afraid that if Bai Ling suspects him, his whole family will be in danger. He assesses the situation. They are too high on the cliff, and a jump from such a height will inevitably end in death. Bai Ling looks at Roland, who is coughing for some reason. He quietly asks why she decided to change their plan. Roland recalls that they were going to take the warden hostage and use the pipeline scheme to escape. Bai Ling suggests changing the plan and just jumping out of the window to escape. Roland is confused and unsure about this plan, realizing how dangerous it is. Roland reminds them of the height of the cliff and adds that if they can't fly, they'll just die. Bai Ling confidently states that everything will be fine and asks Roland to trust her. However, he skeptically remarks that they have only recently met and cannot fully trust her. Bai Ling coldly replies that Roland can stay. After all, he knows how to pick locks and will probably find another way to escape. Roland looks surprised and concerned, stating that if someone tried to escape in this manner, they would definitely be executed. Bai Ling looks at Roland with a sly smile and says that he has no other choice. Zhao Xian pounded on the table with fury, shouting out, "Hey!" and drawing attention to what was happening. Zhao Xian gets angry and asks what Roland and Bai Ling are whispering about. Bai Ling and Roland stand in front of Zhao Xian's desk, and he sternly warns them not to try any tricks. Zhao Xian adds with a smirk that if they try to plot something, the consequences will be brutal. He reminds Roland and Bai Ling of their families, adding that they should think of their loved ones if they want to return home alive. Roland looks at Zhao Xian and ponders that it was that woman who probably asked him to remind them of the target. Bai Ling and Roland stand side by side in tension, each immersed in their own thoughts. Zhao Xian looks at them seriously and asks them to reveal all the information, promising freedom in exchange for something valuable. Bai Ling and Roland stand together in a room surrounded by guards. They look focused. Bai Ling stares seriously ahead. Behind her is a guard with a gun. She's obviously up to something. Bai Ling takes a step forward. Roland looks determined and says the next step is improv, you have to be ready. Bai Ling offers to share information with her boss, but only in private. She wonders which one of them would be a good fit. The head of the guard smiles, finding the situation interesting. Soon the warden himself begins to emerge from behind the table. The head of the guards approaches Bai Ling and Roland. The situation is escalating. The warden is thinking of a plan. He knows that after the battle he is to be taken hostage, and then the prisoners will escape through a pipeline. With a broad smile, he is confident that the mission will be successfully completed. Zhao Xian stops Roland and Bai Ling in a panic, shouting out the command, "Stop!" His face expresses seriousness and determination. Zhao Xian looks confused and worried as he ponders the situation and wonders what he should do next. Zhao Xian realizes that Bai Ling is a threat to his life and that his death will not be a great loss to his superiors, as they will quickly find a replacement for him. He realizes that this plan threatens not only him, but also Agent Roland. Bai Ling thinks with obvious irritation on her face, as she is ready to tear Zhao Xian apart. Zhao Xian tensely watches, and his excitement increases, but suddenly he notices Agent Roland. Roland decides to make an attempt to warn Zhao Xian of Bai Ling's intentions, and starts winking, which causes Zhao Xian to be surprised. Roland ponders the best way to warn Zhao Xian about Bai Ling's plans to jump out of the window, hoping it will help stop her and go back to her original plan. Zhao Xian reflects on Roland's actions and realizes that he is trying to convey to him the reality of the danger that surrounds them. Zhao Xian, even more wary, notices that Roland is insistently pointing at the window behind him. Zhao Xian turns around and sees lightning outside the window. Zhao Xian concludes from Roland's hints that he should let the captives jump out of the window to avoid the danger of being captured. He reflects that Roland saves him again, admires his nobility, and promises to repay him. Roland is stunned and can't believe that Zhao Xian actually understood his plan. Bai Ling looks at Zhao Xian, trying to understand his behavior. Bai Ling provokes Zhao Xian by mocking his indecision and challenging him to come closer. Zhao Xian laughs loudly at the situation, causing Bai Ling to be annoyed. Bai Ling looks at him indignantly and asks what exactly he finds funny. Zhao Xian, with a smile, says that her attempt to trick him was clumsy, and scoffs at her decision to come back here. He continues to mock Bai Ling, emphasizing that he doesn't believe her words and thinks she's stupid. Roland and Bai Ling maintain a serious and wary look as they prepare for further action. Roland is surprised that Zhao Xian didn't follow the plan. He explains that Zhao Xian was supposed to approach Bai Ling and become a hostage to help them. Zhao Xian points out with a chuckle, the expression on the girl's face betraying her confusion. Zhao Xian suspects that Bai Ling's plan was to force him closer and attack him to use him as a hostage, taunting her that they didn't come up with another plan to escape. He reveals that the prison's pipeline scheme is hidden in his safe, thus hinting that their plan is not so safe. But then Zhao Xian declares that he has figured out their plan. Bai Ling mockingly calls him an arrogant idiot and claims that Zhao Xian has made 2 fatal mistakes. Zhao Xian incomprehensibly interjects, what kind of mistakes are we talking about? Zhao Xian begins to threaten Bai Ling, reminding her that she is at a disadvantage. Bai Ling replies that he is actually the one who didn't understand anything, and smiles defiantly. Bai Ling explains that she needs the schematic, and asks how she can get it if it's in the safe. Zhao Xian, with a snide smile, asks Bai Ling how she plans to pick up the scheme, since she's still handcuffed. Zhao Xian is beginning to realize that Bai Ling might be outplaying him. Bai Ling smiles evilly, clearly preparing another trick. The handcuffs suddenly open, releasing Bai Ling. Zhao Xian is surprised by what has happened, realizing that something has gone wrong. Bai Ling uses the moment to attack Zhao Xian. Zhao Xian manages to land a sweeping leg kick after the attack, showing his alertness. Zhao Xian can't believe that Bai Ling has actually broken free of her handcuffs. Bai Ling threatens Zhao Xian, pointing out that he shouldn't have chained her. Zhao Xian asks Roland if he did it, and now realizes how Roland was able to escape from Green Island. Zhao Xian stands in front of Bai Ling and Roland, confidently stating that removing the handcuffs won't help. He presses the radio button and reports, "Over." Zhao Xian summons the guards, ordering them to go to his office immediately and imposes Class A martial law. The atmosphere in the room is tense. A storm can be seen outside. Bai Ling and Roland are approaching Zhao Xian. Zhao Xian watches the scene with a chuckle as he ponders his next course of action. He decides that all avenues of escape must be cut off, leaving the only option to jump out the window. Zhao Xian excitedly points his finger and commands to shoot and kill Bai Ling and Roland. One of the guards takes aim with a rifle following orders. Bai Ling anxiously shouts out, "Roland!" Several guards open fire, shooting towards Bai Ling and Roland. Bai Ling jumps guard, defending Roland against the gunfire from the guards. Bai Ling protects herself and Roland by using her tails as a shield against bullets. She tells Roland to get ready as they are going to act immediately. Roland questions whether she really wants to jump out. Bai Ling calmly asks if Roland has another plan. Roland realizes that Zhao Xian is trying to kill them and worries if they can survive the jump. Zhao Xian resolutely addresses them, stating that it won't be so easy for them to escape now. Zhao Xian creates an energy ball in his hand, preparing to attack. A huge glowing sword appears from the energy ball. Zhao Xian, holding his sword, surrounded by electrical energy, ready to fight. Bai Ling and Roland prepare for the next step by confronting Zhao Xian. Bai Ling stands up for Roland. She is ready to fight Zhao Xian, showing her determination. Bai Ling assesses Zhao Xian's strength level and realizes that he has reached a high level comparable to the 3rd level of materialization. Zhao Xian confirms her conclusions by telling her how to gather energy in the human body, and warns that Roland and Bai Ling won't be able to escape. Roland, worried about the situation, asks if they can defeat Zhao Xian and what to do next. Bai Ling realizes that fighting will only delay them, and suggests they just jump out the window to escape. Bai Ling and Roland look at the window and think about what to do. The girl tells Roland to follow her and the boy agrees. They run toward the window, intending to jump out. Zhao Xian is confident that everything is going as planned, only the final touch is left. He decides to attack, rushing towards them with the goal of stopping the escape. Roland watches in horror as the energy spear flies at him. Because Roland ducked, he begins to fall to the floor while Zhao hangs in the air. Roland screams for help, sensing danger. But Bai Ling only turned her back on our poor boy. Roland is surprised to realize that Bai Ling can leave him alone. Bai Ling resolutely breaks the glass and prepares for action, creating a powerful explosion around him. Zhao Xian scoffs at the recumbent Roland, claiming that their alliance isn't that strong. Zhao Xian burns a desire for mercy, stating that he will deal with Roland first. Roland watches fearfully as the energy spear flies towards him. Bai Ling uses his tails to attack Zhao Xian, who tries to deflect the blow. Roland, sitting on the floor, doesn't realize what's going on when he sees Bai Ling's tail wrapped around his leg. His eyes widen in horror because he knows what's about to happen. Bai Ling lifts Roland into the air with his tail. He screams in fear. Shards are falling down and it looks pretty scary. Bai Ling, standing amidst the shards, looks forward, resolutely preparing for action. Roland, panicking, offers to think again before continuing, but no one listens to him. Roland flies through the air, desperately shouting, "Wait!" Bai Ling and Roland fall from a height together, and the girl's tail flutters in the wind. Zhao Xian watches their fall from the broken window, realizing that it was a success. He has a serious expression on his face, says he was just following orders and asks not to be blamed for what is happening. Zhao Xian is confused, holding up the phone and asking if he really needs to do this. The voice on the other end of the wire orders him to wound Roland to make it look like an escape accident and eliminate suspicion. Zhao Xian agrees with a determined look and states that he guarantees to complete the task. With an expression of regret, Zhao Xian held the fire spear, pointing it towards Roland. Roland jumps out of the window, screaming from the height, panic gripping him. The fiery spear flies after him, destroying all obstacles in its path. Roland falls, but doesn't yet realize what's behind him. He suddenly turns around, realizing that now he's finished. The fiery spear wounds Roland, causing severe pain and leaving a bloody mark. Roland, with an expression of pain, lets out a stream of blood, showing the severity of the wound. Bai Ling anxiously shouts Roland's name, calling out for his attention. At the moment of critical danger, it uses its long and flexible tail to keep it from falling. With deep excitement, she repeats his name, desperately hoping she can help. Roland clutched at the sharp spear that pierced his side, enduring the pain and trying not to let go. His face contorted in pain, and he asks in bewilderment, "Why?" Roland, covered in sweat and misery, clenches his hands resolutely, though energy comes out of him. A blast of energy directed towards the wall forms a stream of light, shattering everything in its path. Inside the building, Zhao Xian stands with a burning fist and apologizes to Roland, noting that he's just following orders. Bai Ling rushes over to Roland, hugging him to save him from falling. Face to face, Roland confesses that he doesn't want to die, to which Bai Ling promises that he won't die. Bai Ling falls into the water in despair, covered in raindrops, unable to fight back. It continues to fall underwater, forming a long trail of bubbles behind it. Bai Ling's dive creates a strong whirlpool, and the tower can be seen from above. Zhao Xian orders the Marine Patrol to send out a rescue force to catch the fugitives. A ship appears, patrolling the sea area, its searchlights illuminating the water. One of the patrolmen reports that no fugitives have been found in Marine Area 3 and orders the search to continue. The two patrolmen smoke and discuss that the fugitives will probably not be found. The patrolman remarks that their only ship is looking for them like a needle in a haystack, adding that the fugitives may have already perished. The landscape becomes empty, with only the raging sea in the rain in the background. One of the patrolmen suddenly notices something and asks in surprise, "What the hell is that?" A mysterious shadow appears in the water, and purple rays spread around it. A ship can be seen in the distance, illuminating the water with searchlights. One of the soldiers shouts, "Enemy attack!" An unknown object is approaching on the starboard side, and demands that the searchlights be turned on. An enormous object flies out of the water and hurtles toward the ship. Two soldiers on deck looking at an object they are illuminating with spotlights. Soldiers with guns in their hands yell, "What the hell is that?" Bai Ling, surrounded by a bright pink aura, is preparing to attack, for they have made her very angry. Could it be that our girl has fallen in love with Roland? Oh, I hope so. Bai Ling's face contorted with rage, her eyes glowing with a pink light. The soldiers notice Bai Ling and Roland approaching and yell, "Fire!" The soldiers start firing, shouting the order "Shoot," but I don't think that's going to help them. Bai Ling comes under fire, but she remains calm and determined despite the danger. She directs her fierce gaze forward, clearly not about to back down. The strong movement of her tail heralds a powerful attack. She is about to strike. The enemy soldiers have no time to react as her tail slices through their bodies like blades, leaving behind a trail of blood. One of the soldiers, noticing Bai Ling's power, expresses shock and fear, realizing that they can't stop her. Bai Ling floats in the air as she fights her enemies, looking both majestic and formidable. The soldiers are shooting back, trying to stop her, but are clearly in a panic. We see Bai Ling covered in energy, her power so great that even enemy bullets can't harm her. The enemy screams in terror, realizing that their attempts are futile. While in the captain's cabin, Bai Ling continued slaying enemies, judging from the fact that the windows were drenched in blood. The surviving sailor asked the girl not to kill and to spare her. Bai Ling holds Roland in her arms and asks the man if he knows how to drive a boat. The man replies fearfully that he can, and is willing to help, just so long as they don't touch him. Bai Ling orders him to sail to the Sea of Uncleanness, while maintaining contact with the main station, and warns him not to do anything stupid or she will kill him as well as his comrades. The man agrees in desperation and assures her that he will do anything. He watches as Bai Ling sits down next to Roland, with bodies scattered around. Roland lies on the floor, breathing heavily, judging by his facial expression. Bai Ling reassures him, telling him that they are safe. She then asks the man where the first aid kit is, to which he replies that he will bring it right away. A ship sails in the dark on a choppy sea. A man stands at the controls of the box, tensely gazing ahead, clearly afraid to disobey Bai Ling's orders. Bloody bandages and medications are scattered on the floor, indicating a recent surgery or dressing. Roland lies with his stomach bandaged and Bai Ling sits beside him, monitoring his condition. The wound on Roland's stomach is still bleeding, evident by the bloodstain on the bandage. Bai Ling stares intently. Her thoughts seem to be focused on further action and saving Roland. Roland, despite the bandage, looks weakened and tired, his face covered in sweat. Roland is unconscious, and you can tell he's having a pretty hard time. Elsewhere, Roland sits on a bench and watches the children having fun. A boy is playing with his toy and asks his brother to look at him. He's having a lot of fun. Roland asks him not to run so fast because she might fall. He reminds her that the principal can see them and then scolds her. Meanwhile, Roland is surprised to be approached by Xiaoming. Xiaoming grudgingly tells Roland that he bought a moose chopper and she didn't. She says he's very bad and looks very angry. Roland looks slightly confused and says, right. He adds that tomorrow is the birthday of the cutest babe in the universe and that he's going to buy her a delicious cake. Xiaoming immediately perks up and asks excitedly, really? Looking out eagerly. Xiaoming, filled with energy and joy, quickly ran forward. A girl, sitting next to Roland on a bench, says that she wants a chocolate cake, so that there will be lots and lots of chocolate in it. She asks Roland to promise it. Roland smiles and agrees, saying, deal. Xiaoming leans over, looking slightly upset, and asks Roland, deal? Don't you have an assignment? Roland interjects in shock. Xiaoming, what did you say? Xiaoming continues without raising his head, reminding, you haven't completed the task yet? Red glints appear in her eyes, and looking directly at Roland, she says in a grim tone, we can all die. Roland panics backward, his face contorted with horror, screaming, clearly terrified of something. Children stand in front of Roland, led by a small boy, Amu, holding a colored fidget spinner. A metallic object is seen on his face, and he utters, brother Roland. Roland looks stunned and tense, hardly realizing what is happening. A woman in red appears behind Roland. She asks mockingly, isn't it nice to watch people close to you die before your eyes? Roland turns around in horror, looking at the woman, and you can see how her menacing aura scares him. In the next moment, Roland shouts, Lan Muyang, his eyes full of fear. Meeting her is something he has been trying to avoid. Lan Mayan, with a cold smile, corrects him. What disrespect? To you, I am Miss Lan Mayan. Her piercing gaze and confident look inspire danger. Lan Mayan takes a step forward, clearly showing that she is ready to act. Roland realizes that he has almost no way out. Lan Mayan stands in front of Roland, and he adopts a defensive posture with his fists clenched, showing his willingness to confront her, though it's clear that her calmness undercuts his resolve. Roland shouts desperately, you promised that as long as I work for the Secret Service, my family will be safe. His voice is full of despair and pain. He feels betrayed by Lan Mayan and fears for his loved ones. Lan Mayan says to Roland with a chuckle, who do you think you are? She is clearly unhappy with his impertinent behavior. Lan Muyang continues threateningly, you have no right to put conditions on me. Your family's life depends on my whim. Roland realizes that the situation is out of his control. Lan Mayan notes that he is lucky to be accepted into the Secret Service, but warns that he is far from the only one. She then adds, complete the task and I will treat you well. Roland replies with a serious expression, I don't need it. I just want my family to be safe. His determination is evident despite the pressure. Lan Mayan delivers a sharp blow to Roland, who barely has time to react. The force of the blow clearly stuns him. Roland, with blood on his lips, shouts with rage, Lan Muyang. Despite the pain, he has no intention of giving up. Lan Mayan delivers a powerful leg kick, sending Roland flying. Her fighting ability is far superior to his. Roland flies backwards, hitting the ground with a strong force. He finds it difficult to deal with such an attack. Roland lies on the ground, breathing heavily, with blood coming out of his mouth. He tries to catch his breath, despite the intense pain. Lan Muyang calmly stands beside the defeated Roland, looking down at him from above. Lan Mayan delivers a strong kick to Roland's chest, knocking the air out of his lungs. Roland struggled to breathe. Lan Mayan looks down at Roland and says, "I told you, call me Mrs. Lan Mayan." Her threat sounds overt and her dominant stance emphasizes her power. Lan Muyang adds with a chuckle, "As long as you are in the Secret Service, you can only be my loyal dog. Encouragements and punishments are my gifts." She then warns him, "If you dare to disobey again, I will blow your head off." His eyes are full of terror and fear in front of Lan Muyang. He clearly realizes how dangerous the situation is. Roland, shocked and frightened, starts screaming, a close-up of Roland's face showing drops of sweat. His eyes squinted. He's trying with the last of his strength to realize what's going on. Fully awake, he begins to look around the place. Roland sees a man in a white suit standing at the control panel, steering the ship. Roland, lying on the ground, says to himself, "Another silly dream," and adds, "Even in my dream I was powerless and could not fight back." One can see how much his own helplessness oppresses him. Roland was displeased, for that woman considers him a faithful dog. Furious, he promises Lan Muyang that he will show her that even a defeated dog can also have fangs. Bai Ling, who is sitting next to him, notices that the guy is having nightmares again. Roland, not knowing what to say, looks away. He notices that his wounds have been treated, to which he was of course surprised. Roland thanks the girl for saving him, but Bai Ling asks him not to thank her, because she only paid him back, reminding him that it was only because he took off the handcuffs that they were able to escape. Bai Ling reminds him that his wounds will soon heal, as he is from the Sanglon clan, who have an innate ability to regenerate. Roland asks in surprise, are they really on a ship? At this point, the ship is still also sailing through the night sea, through big waves and a storm. Bai Ling tells that when Roland lost consciousness, she captured the patrol ship that was sent to capture them. Roland, with an expression of surprise, asks a question, clarifying if this ship is human. Bai Ling responds by saying that she killed all but one person at the controls, and considers it compensation for her lost time in prison. The man at the controls looks tense as he observes the situation. Roland observes the bodies lying on the floor, blood all around. One of the slain military men is in the spotlight, with a large wound visible on his chest. Roland asks Bai Ling where they are going. The man at the controls shouts, warning of possible danger. Roland and Bai Ling are surprised, tension rising. Roland rises abruptly, Bai Ling in the background also preparing for action. The ship gets caught in a storm and the situation becomes critical. Roland, trying to stand up, moves clumsily, causing him to lose his balance. He asks in a panic, "Is someone attacking us?" Bai Ling calmly replies, "Don't panic, we've arrived." Roland, Bai Lin, and another person are in a room with a control console. The man sits at the console and Bai Lin observes the situation. Roland interjects in confusion, "Are we there?" Bai Ling explains that they are on the nearest path from the third sea zone of the Shen Kingdom. The window shows a stormy sea scene, gloomy clouds thickening over the ship. As it turned out, this place was a sea of darkness. The ship continues to make its way through the dark waters, surrounded by thick fog. Roland and Bai Ling stand on the deck of the ship and observe the scene around them, their facial expressions serious and focused. Roland is concerned. He says the sea looks dangerous. Huge swirls and waves can be seen on the horizon, creating a chaotic environment. Roland says he's from the Demon Clan, but he's never seen this place before. Roland understands why the Shen Kingdom's attacks are ineffective. Bai Ling confirms that the Shen Kingdom has become very powerful, and without this sea, they would have lost the southern territories long ago. The ship moves forward through the rough sea, headlights illuminating the way. Roland and Bai Ling stand on the deck. Roland looks tense. Roland explains that the waters here are merciless and so are the monsters. If you sail any farther, the ship could capsize. Bai Ling assures him that she won't let him die in the belly of a fish. Bai Ling starts calling loudly, using howls like wolves. The echo of her scream echoed through the air, causing a reaction in the dark waves of the sea. A large creature with a trident appears from the depths of the sea, its silhouette visible against the dark waters. This creature is a monster with purple eyes and a crest. It is clearly a threat. Roland and Bai Ling's ship is surrounded by several similar sea creatures that begin to approach the ship. One of the creatures climbs up onto the ship, grabbing onto its sides. Roland is alarmed and screams, asking who the creatures are, clearly terrified of what is happening. Bai Lin and Roland are standing on the deck when one of the creatures rises up in front of them, threatening. Several sea creatures with tridents are preparing to attack the ship. They are standing right on the deck, looking intimidating. The creatures surround Bai Ling and Roland on the deck, closing in on them. The survivor standing at the helm screams in horror that this is the end. One of the sea monsters breaks into the cabin. He orders the man to get out. The survivor agrees, otherwise he will die. Roland asks Bai Ling in surprise if it was her screams that attracted the creatures. Bai Ling calmly replies that they are sentries. The sentinel asks, "Who are you?" He rebukes Roland and Bai Ling for capturing the Xuanyu state ship and invading the waters of the unclean realm without sending a message beforehand. Bai Ling introduces herself as Hazan from the Qingqiu clan. She explains that she was captured in Xuanyu 3 months ago, but managed to escape. Bai Ling asks to bring her home, promising to reward her generously for her help. The sentinel is surprised to learn that the man in front of him is indeed Hazan of the Qingqiu clan. Bai Ling utilized his powers, which manifested in the form of a powerful pink glow and 9 tails, displaying his might. She looks directly at the sentries and asks, "What? You don't believe me?" Clearly confirming her origin and power. The sentries are shocked by her power and obey, recognizing her as a mistress. They congratulate her on her successful escape, showing her respect. Bai Ling gives orders to get her to Hanjing as quickly as possible, showing confidence in his authority. Bai Ling adds that no one must find out about her return. She orders her companions to stay close to her and not take a step away from her. Roland, watching her determination, looks concerned but says nothing. The sentinel replies short and clear, "I," emphasizing his obedience. Hanjing appears as a mysterious city with massive buildings and a mystical atmosphere. Inside the room, a huge screen with the image of a golden dragon watches the scene. A subordinate reports to his master, "My lord, the third mistress has entered the city." The master is surprised that Bai Ling was able to escape from human captivity. He admits that he hasn't received any news of her escape and hasn't even had time to take action. He is concerned about her return. A masked subordinate offers to eliminate Bai Ling, asking if the master wants him to take care of her. The master refuses to act immediately, explaining that their moves now would be too conspicuous. He is sure that in time things will work out in his favor. A ship is moored at Hanjing's pier, and people and creatures begin to emerge from it. Roland and Bai Ling walk together, followed by the sentries, emphasizing her status. Roland is clearly in suspense. The sentinel informs Bai Ling that their escorting task is complete and they should leave. He hopes she has a pleasant time in Hanjing. Bai Ling thanks them for their help and says he will ask the admiral of the coastal defense to make one of them commander-in-chief. The sentinel replies with deep respect, "Thank you, mistress," confirming his loyalty and devotion. Bai Ling and Roland walked towards the imposing city ahead. Roland couldn't help but exclaim, "First time in Han City and I didn't expect it to be this prosperous." Bai Ling glanced sideways at Roland with a slight smirk. "Your astonishment isn't surprising. Though the Demon Nation as a whole lags behind the Shenwu Nation, Han City is located near the Black Sea Channel, a bustling trade hub and a stronghold with heavy defenses. It is one of the 3 major capitals of the Demon Nation, second only to the imperial capital. It's hard for it not to be prosperous." Roland nodded thoughtfully before asking, "So where are we going now?" Bai Ling answered softly, her voice carrying a hint of nostalgia. "Home." Just then, 4 luxury cars pulled up in front of Bai Ling, their tinted windows reflecting the sunlight. Bai Ling stood frozen for a moment, clearly taken by surprise. She frowned, perplexed by the unexpected arrival. At this moment, the car door opened and a pair of beautiful high-heeled shoes stepped out. Following that, a girl in a chiapao with a single horn on her head leaned out from the car. The girl gazed at Bai Ling and Roland. Roland couldn't help but think to himself, "This girl, she's dressed so seductively." The girl then bowed to Bai Ling. "I am Gu, respectfully welcoming you, my lord. After such perilous journeys, you have finally escaped unharmed." The old ancestor received the news early and was so excited, he couldn't stop dancing with joy. Bai Ling looked at the girl with tear-filled eyes. Is the old ancestor still well? Jiyu, moved by Bai Ling's words, could no longer hold back her tears. "Ever since your capture, the old ancestor has been thinking about you day and night. He couldn't rest, consumed by worry." Upon hearing this, Bai Ling's heart ached, and she pouted with sadness, fighting back her tears. While both were caught in their sorrowful emotions, Zhou turned to look at Roland. "And this is?" Zhou asked, her expression curious. Roland, looking completely confused, stammered, I'm... Bai Ling, seeing his confused expression, smirked and answered for him. "This fool's name is Roland. He's the one who helped me escape from prison." Roland stood there, still dazed after hearing Bai Ling's introduction, and softly said, "Hello, Miss Zhou." Zhou immediately gave a deep bow, expressing her gratitude. "Thank you for saving my young lady, my lord. Zhou will repay you generously." Bai Ling watched them for a moment, and sensing the atmosphere had eased a bit, softly said, "All right, let's head back and talk later." Roland and Bai Ling sat awkwardly in the back of the carriage, the air thick with an unspoken tension. Roland glanced at Bai Ling briefly before quickly turning away, as though too nervous to meet her gaze. Bai Ling, sensing his discomfort, spoke calmly. If you have questions, just ask. You saved me, so there's no need for you to be so formal in front of me. Roland paused for a moment, then looked at Bai Ling and said, could you just drop me off somewhere up ahead? I don't want to get entangled with big figures. Bai Ling glanced at him sternly, her voice carrying a touch of reproach. You risked your life to help me escape, barely making it out. Don't you want me to repay you? With the power of my family, this reward is likely to change your fate. Roland was puzzled. Your family? What exactly is your identity? Bai Ling looked out at the sky and said, this place was not originally called Cold City, but Qingqiu City, the holy city of the Qingqiu Fox Demon Clan. My ancestor was the ruler of this holy city, the nine-tailed Fox King, Qingqiu Qi. After the War of 10,000 Demons, Qingqiu Qi was defeated and submitted to the Demon King. Qingqiu City was then renamed Cold City, symbolizing the Demon King's will to guard the cold frontier for generations. To control the power of our clan, the Demon King brought the 3 major clans and 24 smaller clans to settle here, ruling the Cold Continent together. Cold City became the heart of the Cold Continent and the hub of 100 cities. Today, the 4 great families of the Cold Continent, Qingqiu, Ao, Shang, and you coexist with Qingqiu at the top. Roland felt awkward, embarrassed. I feel ashamed. Although I'm also a demon, I grew up in the immortal martial kingdom, so I know nothing about these historical tales. Bai Ling immediately asked, so what do you think? Will you still refuse my reward? Of course, I wasn't joking. I previously thought your family was well off and didn't want to attach myself to it. But after hearing all this, I'm now even more determined to keep my distance. Bai Ling asked seriously, so you really don't want anything to do with me? Roland answered without hesitation. Yes, I don't want to. Bai Ling helplessly rolled her eyes, inwardly sighing. This fool actually rejected me to my face. Since he won't accept my grand gesture, at least he should take some money. Living here isn't cheap after all. Roland awkwardly replied, money, that's fine. But before Roland could finish, Bai Ling angrily shouted, shut up. Let me have some peace, you damn fool. The two were once again plunged into an awkward silence. The vehicle sped toward their destination. In no time, it stopped in front of an impressive estate. The plaque at the gate bore 3 words, Qingqiu Manor. Bai Ling and Roland looked up at the plaque, and Bai Ling sighed, Qingqiu Manor. I'm home. The guarding wolf demon at the door looked at Bai Ling and shouted happily, Miss, it's Mississippi Miss is back. The blue fox head immediately shouted at the red fox head, idiot, hurry up and report. The red fox ran while shouting, Ancestor, Ancestor, the young lady has returned. Bai Ling stepped into the gates of the mansion. The red fox entered the inner courtyard and continued shouting, Ancestor, the young lady has returned. Ancestor. Then a yellow fox stopped him. No manners. How can you be shouting like this? This fox was the steward of Qingqiu Mansion, named Qingqiu Lian. Steward Lian, the young lady. The young lady has returned. Ameo asked me to report it to the Ancestor. Steward Lian was taken aback, because Bai Ling and her 2 companions had already entered. Steward Lian not only didn't step forward to greet them, but angrily scolded the red fox. You dare. No matter who returns, you cannot make noise in the mansion. Since this is your first offense, kneel here and receive 60 slaps as punishment. To set an example, the red fox knelt on the ground, begging for mercy and frantically kowtowing. Bai Ling walked up to the red fox and said with a smile, the steward of Qingqiu has quite the authority. Today, Ameo was simply overjoyed by my return and lost his composure. Could you please let him off, considering my face? Steward Lin bowed respectfully and replied, greetings, Mississippi. Perhaps you should go see the old ancestor first. She has been thinking of you day and night. As for the matter of the servants, leave that to me. Bai Ling's eyes appeared blank, and even Roland, standing behind her, sensed that something was wrong. It seems the steward of the Qingqiu residence doesn't get along with Bai Ling. There must be someone backing him. Not one to give in, Bai Ling released a burst of demonic energy and coldly asked, what if I insist on intervening? Steward Lian remained calm, his attitude still courteous on the surface. But he spoke with a hint of indifference. In Qingqiu residence, punishments for servants are handled by the steward. I'm simply doing my duty. All decisions regarding the punishments are made by the master of the house. If Miss feels it is unfair, she can report it to the master, and I will accept whatever the master decides. This is the rule. Bai Ling sneered and looked down at the steward, her expression hard to read. Zhou angrily shouted, Master Lian, you dare to contradict the young lady. I will tell the old ancestor and have her punish you. Master Lian didn't even look at Zhou, replying coldly, you're just amazed by the young lady's side. Don't forget your place. The family head despises gossip within the household. I advise you not to make a fool of yourself. This is not a place for you to speak. Ji was left speechless by the rebuke, unable to say a word. Master Lien waved his hand dismissively and said, "All right, leave the young lady's matters to me. The old ancestor is still waiting for you. Please hurry." White Ling stood there helplessly, feeling the sting of defeat once again. Just like before, this old fox, as long as that man stands behind him, this humiliation will never be erased. "I won't accept it. I can't accept it." White Ling gritted her teeth and stepped up the stairs, suppressing her inner pain. Master Lien watched White Ling leave, snorting with some self-satisfaction. Suddenly, a voice rang out. "What's going on here?" Without warning came a shout, "Take this kick." Master Lien barely had time to cover his face before he cried out in pain. White Ling, the red fox, and Ji were all frozen in shock, their eyes wide in disbelief. White Ling stared blankly at Roland, completely stunned. Roland growled angrily, "You damn servant, I've tolerated your insolent face for far too long." Master Lien, covering his face, shouted in anger, "Who are you? How dare you hit me?" Roland didn't back down, retorting, "You set rules for others but don't follow them yourself. Are you blind to your own actions? You're the housekeeper of this manor, right? Isn't it your job to carry out the master's will? How can you openly defy the young lady's wishes? Isn't the young lady your master? Do you think you can now act above the family head?" Master Lien, unable to argue back, threatened, "Kid, just wait. You'll regret this." Roland responded coolly, "I've learned my lesson. May I ask who you are, sir?" White Ling looked at Master Lien with a sneer. "Do you plan to take revenge? He's my savior. He's the one who brought me back." Master Lien's face twisted in anger. "Oh, a savior, huh? I'll remember that." He then turned on the red-haired fox, fuming, "You've got some nerve. The young lady pleaded for you, and you still haven't left?" The red-haired fox quickly waved his hand, respectfully replying, "Thank you, Master Lien, for your leniency." Master Lien was unwilling but had no choice but to endure for now. He said coldly, "Miss, the old ancestor is still waiting for you." Bai Ling replied with annoyance, "I know, I'm going now." In an elegant room, a maid stood beside a shadowed figure. The hand was withered, but the killing intent it radiated was still palpable. This was Qingxiu clan's old ancestor, Qingxiu Dan. She turned to the maid and asked, "Has Bai Ling not arrived yet?" The maid respectfully replied, "She should be here soon, old ancestor. Please be patient, she may." Before the maid could finish, the door was suddenly pushed open. Another maid rushed in, calling out, "Old ancestor! Old ancestor! The young lady has arrived." The old ancestor looked stunned, trembling with excitement, unable to believe. The old ancestor was eager. She stood up, ready to leave and wait. However, White Ling had already arrived at the door. She casually touched her ear and stepped into the room. The moment she saw the old ancestor, White Ling's eyes filled with tears. "Old ancestor, I'm back." The old ancestor gently stroked White Ling's head, her voice filled with concern. "Are you all right? I was afraid I'd never see you again." The old ancestor then turned to Roland, asking, "Who is this young man?" White Ling cheerfully grabbed Roland's shoulder, introducing him with a teasing smile. "His name is Roland. He's the one who helped me escape. Without him, I'd probably still be locked in that dreadful place." The old ancestor smiled approvingly. "Good man. Now, tell me how you two managed to escape." Meanwhile, Master Lien was pacing back and forth in the hallway. His mood conflicted. He stopped in front of a room and called out, "Master, the young lady is back, and she's brought along an outsider named Roland. He's the one who rescued the young lady from prison." Inside the room, a middle-aged fox was focused on writing with a brush. His face looked fierce, and he simply replied coldly, "I know." Master Lien asked again, "Is the master still going to see the young lady?" The fox shook his head slightly, replying indifferently, "No, everything remains as usual. As for that benefactor, give him a reward, but don't ruin the customs of the Qingxiu clan." Bai Ling leaned on the old ancestor, listening intently as Roland recounted the escape. After Roland finished, the old ancestor sighed. "You actually escaped by jumping through the window. You really took a risk. It makes me nervous just hearing about it. I'm getting old, no longer as capable." Bai Ling playfully said, "Those useless humans couldn't hurt me anyway." The old ancestor looked at Roland, impressed. "Little brother Roland, I didn't expect you to have such impressive skills." Roland modestly cupped his hands. "Old ancestor, you flatter me." The old ancestor continued to ask, "Which clan are you from?" Roland slightly parted his lips and said, "I am from the Tsong Wolf clan of the north, but just a branch, not from the main line." The ancestor gave Roland a meaningful look, asking, "Then you must have suffered a lot, right?" Roland, hearing her tone, grew cautious. He thought to himself, "This ancestor seems old and senile, but every word she speaks is probing my background. Roland sighed and replied, "It's a long story. When I was young, the northern city of Imo and the surrounding villages suffered a great famine. The fields yielded no crops, and the forests were ravaged by wildfires. Imo City was on the border, and we knew how prosperous the Shinwa kingdom was. In order to survive, I, along with my clan, smuggled ourselves into Shinwu to seek a way to live. Later, I learned the skill of lockpicking and began living by thievery. But as they say, anyone who walks by the river will eventually get their feet wet. I was caught. After that, I was imprisoned in the Green Island prison for several years. I managed to escape once, but as soon as I got out, I was caught again." After Roland finished, the ancestor gazed at him and said slowly, "It's not easy. Life in the human world is truly tough." The old ancestor looked at Roland and said warmly, "Since he's saved by Ling, I should make up for any neglect. What reward would you like?" Roland looked at the old ancestor, hesitating and not knowing what to say. Bai Ling, however, playfully said, "Roland doesn't even care for our family's rewards." "Old ancestor, you don't know? On our way back, I tried offering an olive branch, but he politely refused, saying he doesn't want to get involved with our family, as if we were some kind of disaster." The old ancestor found Roland amusing and asked, "Young man, why is that?" Roland, visibly nervous, quickly explained, "I just feel that I escaped purely because of Bai Ling's skill, so I have nothing to repay. We helped each other." Bai Ling gave him a playful look and stuck her tongue out at him. The old ancestor smiled, her gaze sharp. "Roland, you really have spent a lot of time with humans, haven't you? You've picked up some of their noble ideals, but still, there must be something you can offer in return." Just then, the door opened, and Master Lean entered, head lowered. Master Lean lowered his head and respectfully reported, "Old ancestor, the family had sent me to inform you that he has urgent matters to attend to and won't be coming in person. I hope you can forgive him." Bai Ling stared hard at Master Lien and then playfully snorted, clearly displeased. Roland, standing nearby, thought to himself, the family head, could it be Bai Ling's father? Their father-daughter relationship seems quite strained. The old ancestor, angry, snapped. If he didn't want to come, he could have just said so instead of making up such a convincing excuse. Master Lean once again bowed respectfully, speaking humbly, "I dare not. The family head truly has pressing matters. Please forgive him, old ancestor." The old ancestor snorted, frowning. "I can't be bothered to see him. However, there's still one thing that requires his decision." She pointed at Roland and said, "This young man is Bai Ling's savior." Master Lean cupped his hands and said, "Old ancestor, we met earlier in the front courtyard." The old ancestor nodded. "Good. Go and ask him what kind of reward he thinks is appropriate for his help." Master Lean answered respectfully. When I left, the family head had already given instructions. The patrol team in North City's Fire God Street is missing a captain, a position that is neither too high nor too low. When Bai Ling heard Fire God Street, her expression instantly became serious. That place is a no-man's land, a hotbed for all sorts of trouble. The previous team leader died under mysterious circumstances. Is this really a good assignment? She said coldly. Bai Ling turned to the old ancestor, her tone firm. "Old ancestor, let him join the military with me." The old ancestor sighed, clearly having something she couldn't speak of. Steward Lean explained, "Miss, the military is not like other departments. We must know the backgrounds of the personnel very well. Furthermore, the military isn't something our family can control alone." Bai Ling looked at Steward Lean, her voice tinged with confusion and irritation. "What do you mean?" Steward Lean gave an evil smile and slowly replied, "Nothing really. It's just that Mr. Luo's and your status differ too much. If you're together day in and day out, it might not look very proper, right?" Luo Lan looked around uneasily, unsure of how to react. He waved his hand, trying to smooth things over. "Everyone, there's no need to let this cause discord. I never intended to save anyone. We simply escaped together. As for such a reward, I really can't accept it." Bai Ling became instantly angry upon hearing Roland's words. "Roland, are you really unwilling to accept my good intentions?" Roland glanced at Bai Ling's sharp eyes and waved his hand. "Don't be angry. I didn't mean anything bad. I just think it's not appropriate." Then Roland turned towards the side steward and said, "I don't know much about Han City. Suddenly asking me to become the captain of the inspection team, I'm afraid I won't be able to do it well." Bai Ling, with her back turned to Roland, huffed angrily. "Excuses." Roland felt a bit awkward from her inexplicable pride. The ancestor gently patted Bai Ling on the back of her head. "Your temper is still as wild as ever. What the young man said makes sense. He's not from the local demon clan. He really needs time to adjust." The ancestor then looked at Roland, saying in a more gentle tone, "Roland, my grandson doesn't have many friends, but she truly considers you a friend." Bai Ling continued to act all proud. "TSH, who considers him a friend? but her slightly flushed face revealed that she indeed had different feelings for Roland. Roland felt a warmth in his heart. A friend? It's been a long time since anyone has said that. The ancestor continued, "All right, this matter is not urgent. You can settle down in the residence first." The moonlight was hazy and the room was brightly lit. Roland, with his hands behind his back, instructed the two girls, "All right, you can leave now." The two beautiful girls looked at Roland with a mix of shyness and shock. The girl in the red dress couldn't help but say, "But the ancestor ordered us to assist Mr. Roland with his bath and changing clothes." Roland's expression turned serious, and he ordered them to leave, saying, "I'm not used to being waited on. You can leave now. If the ancestor asks, just tell them I sent you out." The two maids respectfully began to exit. Roland cautiously opened the door a crack, carefully observing whether the two had truly left. After confirming they had gone, he started to remove his clothes. Then he relaxed as he enjoyed a hot bath. Lying back, he thought to himself, "I've finally entered the land of demons. From here on, surrounded by enemies, one misstep could mean death without a grave. They will definitely try to probe into my background. My fabricated identity is mostly lies, but they shouldn't be able to uncover anything." Roland held his breath and sank into the water, constantly reminding himself to stay alert and not let his guard down. Just then, a knock came from outside the door. "Mr. Roland, are you asleep? Mr. Roland?" The voice outside was gentle and soft. Roland surfaced, his eyes bleary, and murmured to himself, "Who's looking for me at this hour?" The voice, it sounds a bit familiar. He quickly climbed up to the edge of the tub and called out loudly, "Who's there?" Outside, the shy voice of Jiu replied, "Mr. Roland." "It's me, Jiu." The maid of Miss by Ling. Roland looked confused, thinking, "Jiu, what's she doing here at this time?" Outside, Jiu called again, "Mr. Roland, I have something to say to you." Roland sighed in frustration and hastily responded, "Wait a moment." Outside, Jiu stood with her hands behind her back, patiently waiting, but her expression seemed a bit stiff, as if uncertain. Roland opened the door and spoke, "Miss Jiu, it's so late. Do you need something?" Jiu's face was flushed, adding a unique charm to her appearance, as she softly said, "Mr. Roland, may I come in to speak?" Roland paused for a moment, feeling a sense of confusion rise within him. Then he opened the door wider, making space, and said, "All right, please come in." As Jiu stepped inside, Roland carefully closed the door behind her, ensuring no one would interrupt them. He then looked at Jiu, maintaining a hint of caution in his voice. "Miss Jiu, what brings you here so late?" Jiu's face grew even redder, her gaze intensifying as she slowly moved closer to Roland. Roland, feeling his heart race, was caught off guard by her behavior, his own face flushing. However, he continued to ask, "Miss Jo, what exactly is it that you want to talk about?" Jo moved even closer, her flushed face and alluring figure almost pressing against Roland. Before long, her chest was lightly pressed against Roland, and her lips were gradually moving closer to his face. Jo's voluptuous chest pressed against Roland as she leaned in, making him feel utterly panicked and awkward. Roland flustered, stammered, "Jiu, you're too close." Jiu, looking intently at him, her voice deep and full of longing, said, "From the first moment I saw you, I was deeply captivated by you. If you want tonight, I am yours." She then slowly began unbuttoning her outer garment, her eyes filled with seduction and tenderness. Roland looked away awkwardly, his mind filled with confusion and discomfort. In no time, a perfect figure was revealed before him, impossible to ignore. Suddenly, Roland reached out and firmly grasped her hand. Jiu was shocked by his action, unable to believe that her overwhelming charm had been halted so decisively by him. Roland held her hand firmly, his expression serious as he said, "Jiu, no matter your intentions, this is not how it should be done." Jiu's face turned crimson with shock, her eyes full of disbelief. She whispered, "Am I not attractive enough? You don't have to worry. I am doing this willingly." Roland looked at her calmly but firmly. "Although I don't know your true intentions, I can tell for sure that when you say you're attracted to me, it's a lie." Roland inched closer to Jiu, his voice soft yet filled with meaning. "Because in your eyes, I see no love." Then, without hesitation, Roland opened the door and gestured for her to leave. "All right, Jiu, you should leave now," he said coldly. Jiu, embarrassed and furious, hurriedly buttoned up her clothes, biting her lip as she glared at Roland. Without another word, she stormed out of the room. Roland watched her run off, then slowly closed the door behind him. Standing by the door, his mind raced as he thought about what had just transpired. Jo came to seduce me in the middle of the night. Was this a test? Was it White Ling? Or that old ancestor? He shook his head with a bitter smile, a coldness creeping into his thoughts. Seduction. They really thought of that? Human and demon paths are different. How could I possibly fall for such a trick? On the other side, Jiyu leaned against the garden wall, deep in thought. Mr. Roland doesn't seem like the shallow type, the kind of man who would be drawn to a woman's beauty. If he truly wishes to help the young miss, then he is someone to be trusted. The way he looked at me was not a mere act. I could even sense a hint of disdain in his gaze. Realizing this, Jiyu's eyes widened in shock. Did he really dislike me? What a jerk. So many people are after me, and he dares to disdain me. Jiyu walked out of the garden, her hands behind her back, feeling a mix of emotions. Inside the room, Roland sat cross-legged on the bed, surrounded by a swirling green aura. Suddenly, he opened his eyes wide in confusion. How could this be? The demon core inside him had actually merged with the power of his acupoints. Could it be that the warden's attack earlier accidentally helped me break some kind of seal? Roland leapt off the bed in a flash, quickly standing. He instantly transformed into his werewolf form, his eyes gleaming with sharp light. Roland was astonished to discover that he could now wield the powers of Shinwu while in his demonized state. This is truly a blessing in disguise. Combining the powerful physique of a demon with the Shinwu power has greatly enhanced my self-preservation abilities. After a while, Roland walked over to the window and gazed at the outside scenery, feeling a surge of homesickness. As he looked at the changing sky, he let out a deep sigh, murmuring, "I miss you all so much." The next day, the sun shone brightly and birds chirped joyfully on the trees. Inside the room, Roland was still fast asleep, unaware of his surroundings. Outside the door, a shadow softly knocked, calling, "Roland, time to wake up." Roland jolted awake, seemingly still dazed by the events of the previous night, and exclaimed in surprise, "Not again." Outside, Bailing stood at the door, knocking impatiently. "Roland, wake up, I'm taking you out for a walk." Roland yawned as he opened the door, lazily saying, "Miss, I've got injuries and need to rest." "Rest?" Bai Ling crossed her arms and scoffed. "Cut it out. Your injuries are long healed. Stop pretending. I'm taking you out to see the world." She then forcibly grabbed Roland's arm and dragged him out. Outside, the bustling city was bathed in bright sunshine. Through the glass window, the two of them were seated at a table in the restaurant, enjoying their meal. The table was laden with a rich variety of dishes, a feast for the eyes and stomach. Roland awkwardly looked at the food, feeling no real appetite, thinking to himself, "Is breakfast always this lavish for demons?" Bai Ling, with a contented smile, raised her glass and said, "Of course, this is our first meal in our new life. Let's toast to our new beginning." Roland half-heartedly raised his glass and clinked it with hers. Then, their wine glasses clinked together romantically. Bailing spoke, "Roland, thank you." Roland, who was about to put a piece of food in his mouth, paused and mumbled, "Why thank me? Didn't I say I didn't do it to save you?" Bai Ling rested her chin on her hands, smiling at Roland. "It's not because of that. It's because you helped me teach the housekeeper a lesson yesterday. You really helped me vent my anger." As she spoke, she exaggeratedly gestured. "That kick you gave yesterday was really cool." Roland casually responded, "That incident is not worth mentioning. I just simply couldn't stand him. But there's one thing I'm curious about," Roland continued. "You're the young lady, and he's a servant. Even if he's the housekeeper, he shouldn't be so rude to you. How come it feels like you can't do anything about him? I'm just curious. If it's inconvenient to answer, that's fine." Bai Ling's gaze suddenly darkened, as if she had fallen into some indescribable emotion, her expression a little lost. She remained silent for a moment, then softly said, "Let's eat." Her tone was gentle, but somewhat unnatural. At that moment, the waiter walked over and handed Roland a cup of coffee. Roland couldn't help but smile when he saw the coffee, gently lifting the cup and savoring the aroma. However, just as he was about to take a sip, he noticed a symbol appearing on the surface of the coffee, and his brow instinctively furrowed. Roland softly asked, "Where is the restroom?" His gaze became slightly alert. The waiter smiled and nodded, pointing ahead. "This way, please." Roland followed her, but his mind had already become alert. The methods of the Intelligence Bureau were indeed everywhere. The waiter slightly lowered her head, speaking with a mix of respect and a hint of flattery. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Special Agent. The second door ahead. Once you turn the handle, you'll understand." Roland gently walked toward the door, quietly turning the handle, his heartbeat slightly quickening. Behind the door was a red telephone, quietly placed on the table. Before he could think much more, the phone suddenly rang, breaking the silence. Roland took a deep breath and walked over to answer the phone. A familiar voice came from the other end. "Little wolf dog, long time no see."
Roland is on the phone with this dangerous woman. She congratulates our guy for making it. Then she adds sarcastically that she has chosen a worthy dog. Roland interjects with disbelief. "Could you?" He is clearly annoyed, especially at the mention that he was almost killed during the escape. The woman on the other end of the wire tries to calm him down, reminding him that it was part of the plan and asking him not to get angry. But Roland reacts poignantly, "Killing me was part of the plan." The woman, smiling relaxedly, says that sometimes you have to take risks to gain trust. She notes, however, that Roland did a good job. Roland asks what he should do next. There is indecision in his voice. The answer is nothing. Be a monster in Hanqing. Climb the rank ladder. The task is clear. He must work his way up. Roland is outraged. What kind of mission is this? If I fail, I can't go back. The woman summarizes, "That's an order, no discussion. Good luck." The conversation ends, leaving Roland pensive. Roland, while in the restroom stall, shouts out in a rage, "Bitch!" His irritation reaches a peak. Upon exiting the restroom, he is confronted by a waiter who calmly informs him that Mrs. Bai Ling is waiting for him. Roland, passing by, asks the question, "How many like you are there in Hanqing?" His interest is clearly piqued by the new information. The waiter replies with a smile, "Our position is not so high, but we are under your direction. If you need anything, feel free to contact us." Roland walks into the hall, where he is greeted by Bai Ling. She apologizes for the wait, a calmness on her face. Smiling, Roland replies with a slight self-irony, showing his confidence. Bai Ling, suddenly blushing, looks a little embarrassed, but continues to keep her cool. Roland reflects, there's no other choice. To get to the top quickly, sacrifices will have to be made. He asks Bai Ling, "Why don't you show me Hanqing?" The girl agrees, replying a little confused, "Oh, okay." They are walking through the streets of the city. There are tall buildings all around, and the atmosphere is filled with a sense of change. Bai Ling confusedly asks if Roland wants to go out or just go for a walk. Her emotions clearly do not leave him indifferent. Roland calmly suggests, "Let's go to Vulcan Street." His tone remains confident, but the goal is clearly set. Bai Ling wonders about the choice, asking the question, "Why there?" Her wariness is noticeable. Smiling, she jokingly remarks, "Still thinking about an offer?" Roland waves it off, claiming he wants to see the place. She gives in, but clarifies, "Really?" He replies confidently, "Of course." After a pause, Bai Ling agrees, "All right, I'll show you Volcano Street." They head there together. It was a spectacular view of a street surrounded by water and buildings. The atmosphere is replaced by tension. There is chaos in the streets, people lying on the ground, some moving indifferently. The atmosphere is alarming. A small boy with horns stops in front of a sign that reads, "Pharmaceutical Trading Firm, Nine-Headed Bird." His appearance is alarming. On stage, a man declares, "If you need medicine, line up." The atmosphere becomes more and more ominous. A representative of the Nine-Headed Bird enthusiastically tells us that it is the largest pharmaceutical firm in the realm of the unclean. He assures that the management sympathizes with the residents of Vulcan Street. Continuing, he announces, "We are here to sell you medicine." His words evoke wariness and tension in the crowd. Among the crowd, a boy is seen clutching the money. His face shows despair. The boy bursts forward and shouts, "I need medicine." He holds out the money hopefully. The salesman replies with a smile, "Perfect, our first customer. What do you want?" The boy pleads, "My mom has a severe form of malaria. I need antibiotics." He's quoted a price of 500. Hearing this, he exclaims confusedly, 500? I don't have that much. Give me a discount or I'll pay you back later." The salesman coldly remarks, "We don't do charity." He offers to return when the boy has raised the required amount. The boy cries out in desperation, "But my mom will die without the medicine." His voice pierces through the crowd. The salesman indifferently replies, "Boy, people die every day in this world. It's no big deal." His words sound cynical and cold. The salesman asks defiantly, "Who else needs medicine?" His voice booms over the crowd, attracting attention. The people in the crowd look sullen and tense. Each of them appears to be doubting the possibilities of buying. There are whispers, "Oh, no money, let's go," and "Let's get out of here, it's too expensive." The crowd slowly begins to disperse. The vendor shouts out in rage, "Stupid poor people, where are you all going?" His face expresses disappointment. An elderly man in military uniform walks up to him and reassures him, "Director Moon, don't be upset." You can see that he is used to this kind of situation. The older man remarks with a cold stare, "These beggars must have gone to the black market." His words sound calm, but with a hint of threat. Luong interjects in surprise, "Black market? Hasn't it been outlawed yet?" He is clearly unhappy with the current situation. The older man corrects him, "Such a thing requires the approval of superiors and commanders. I don't have that authority." His voice sounds firm. Luan asks in surprise why his interlocutor was not promoted to captain as planned. This point clearly raises questions. The elderly man replies that the Qingqiu clan has intervened, advancing their version of a candidate. However, he had not yet seen who exactly they had put in the position. The man explains that Vulcan Street, although considered a poor man's house, occupies almost half of the area of Hanjin, and 60% of its population lives there. He emphasizes that this area has special rules that allow people to do things that are not allowed elsewhere. His interlocutor adds that Vulcan Street is of strategic importance, which is why their company is looking to consolidate its position in this location. A man makes plans to monopolize the pharmaceutical resources of the area. He believes that controlling the resources will make their organization invincible. One of them notes that dealing with drug resellers here will not be easy, given the difficult market situation. Seller expresses confidence in Lieutenant Ma, recalling that the deputy head of the department was once a captain, emphasizing his experience and skills. The proposal for cooperation includes a condition: no black market on Vulcan Street. The manager emphasizes the importance of eliminating any illegal operations in the area. The subordinate agrees to the conditions set, assuring that he or she will make every effort to realize the objectives. Meanwhile, a boy with horns walks through the streets of Vulcan, depressed and preoccupied. His tired look suggests dire circumstances. The boy returns to the old abandoned buildings, looking out for opportunity or help. He stops in one of the alleys, clearly in despair, contemplating his next move. A young man with a cigarette in his hands approaches the boy, wondering if he needs medication. The boy, surprised by the offer, asks if he has any medicine. The man remarks that the boy was at the opening of the company and apparently the medicines were too expensive. The boy admits that the medication is really prohibitively expensive, and if he buys it, the family will have to literally starve. The interlocutor, smirking, asks if the boy has heard of generics. The boy, not understanding, clarifies what it is, and the guy with the cigarette explains that every child from Vulcan Street should know about such cheap medicines. He adds that generics are fake drugs, but they work just as well as the real ones while costing significantly less. The agitated boy reports that he urgently needs antibiotics for malaria, showing the last money he has left. The guy looks at the money with apparent indifference while the boy begs him to save his mom. The boy falls to his knees, desperately begging for help, but the expression on his interlocutor's face remains cold. The man replies with a hint that he is willing to help, but his intentions seem unsettling to the boy. The man holds out the money, saying with a smile that he will sell the medication for that amount. The boy thanks him enthusiastically, but he hears the stipulation that he will have to help the man. The man specifies that he needs a child who can hand over the medication. The boy interjects with surprise as to what exactly he means by passing medication. Now we are in the neighborhood or we are on Vulcan Street. Bai Ling and Roland walk down the street, standing out from the people around them. Roland looks around seriously, having obviously noticed something. Two seated men can be seen in the background, looking tired and exhausted. A woman with a horn on her forehead walks down the street, attracting attention with her appearance. The goblin man is on the very woman with the horn, clearly plotting something, and Roland tenses up, feeling threatened.